Hello people of the internet, today we're here to ask the question, Titania.
Yeah! What is it good for?
Indeed, what is the Warframe Titania good for? To answer this we will take a look at its abilities inside the simulacrum before taking it out into the live environment to see it in action. After that we will take a look at how to acquire this Warframe, so let's get to it. Titania's passive grants healing to Titania and her allies within 15 meters. The healing buff is not the strongest and only heals for 4 health per second over 20 seconds for a total of 80 health, but it can get you out of hairy situations now and then. Titania's first main ability is Spellbind. Enemies fumble their weapons as they tumble into the air. Nearby allies become immune to status effects. Hold the ability to cast the immunity onto Titania. So as stated, when you cast this ability on an enemy, it will lift them into the air. It's a decent little CC for a start, but the status effect immunity can also be a massive help in certain scenarios. As stated in the tooltip, you can hold down the ability to cast it onto Titania instead of an enemy, and then Titania gets the buff and can pass it onto allies as a sort of status immunity beacon. Titania's second ability is Tribute. Cycle through and extract one of the 4 buffs when cast on an enemy. Thorns, Dust, Full Moon or Entangle. Survivors' attacks are weakened. A quick glance at the tooltip for this ability may leave you thinking the Full Moon buff is by far the best as it grants damage, health and armor buffs. The thing the tooltip does not state though is that this buff is for companions and not warframes. So with that in mind, unless you are running with a large pack of companions such as all Kavats with a Korra, then you will likely want to choose Thorns over everything else. Thorns grants a damage buff to Titania and her allies, making it a very nice buff to have in most cases. You cycle through the buffs by tapping the ability and hold down the ability button to cast it. Titania's third ability is Lantern. Create a swarm of razorflies that transform an enemy into an irresistible floating beacon, attracting witless comrades before exploding on command. So as stated, this ability will attract all of the nearby enemies to the enemy you have cast Lantern on. They will then attack that enemy instead of you, and in doing so will end up being inflicted with heat damage, dealing damage over time. You can either leave this in place and allow the ability timer to run down, and the affected enemy will then explode doing damage to the memorized enemies around it. Or if everything is already dead, you can hold down the ability to end it. Titania's fourth ability is Razor Wing. Shrink down and take flight, while razorflies attack nearby enemies. As the tooltip states, this ability shrinks down Titania and allows her to fly around the battlefield. What it does not state is that in this mode you will be wielding Titania's exalted weapons, the Dex Pixia dual pistols and the Dewata heavy sword. Both of these weapons can be modded separately from your main melee and secondary weapons, but can also be using the same mods as them with no penalty, which is nice. The razorflies can do damage, but it's not too much. They are a bit of a distraction for the enemies however, so that helps. What helps even more is the damage from the Dex Pixia dual pistols. These can pack a punch, and as you are a small pixie flying around the enemy, you become much harder to hit. The Dewata heavy sword can also do some decent damage, but the pistols are my favourite weapon to use in this form. So now that we have seen what Titania can do, let's take it out into the live environment to see it in action. Titania can be very helpful in any mission in the updated Jupiter gas planet tile sets, simply because when you come up to the larger gaps you would usually have to wall run or jump around, you can simply fly around them and take down a capture target for instance. Titania can also be a great asset in the Lephantis boss fight. She can simply fly around the fight, dodging most of the damage and lay down the damage with her Dex Pixia dual pistols. As the pistols also recharge ammo, you are not going to find yourself out of ammo, which can happen in this fight when facing off against Lephantis in a sortie with other frames. This is just what you can get up to solo. As you probably already can tell from the abilities we covered earlier, Titania can also be a great support frame in group missions with other players, so it is a frame well worth getting your hands on. Speaking of such, you may now be wondering how to do that exactly. As Titania Prime is now a thing, you will be best off checking the current offerings from the Void Relics, as she may well be available that way. If however she happens to be vaulted when you are seeing this video, then you will need to start with the standard Titania, which can be gathered from the Silver Grove quest. To get the quest, you need to have unlocked the syndicates in-game and then visit a relay to speak with the new Loka syndicate. If you are far enough along in your star chart, they will grant you the quest. This quest requires you to farm plants from a number of different planets and tile sets to make an Apothic. You can then take the Apothic into the Silver Grove on Earth to find a Spectre to fight. You will need to repeat this 3 times to collect all of the parts in the blueprint. I recommend running this quest even if you do already have the Prime version, as it is good to get the standard frame for Mastery rank, and also the quest does have some decent lore in it that gives you a chance to learn more about the new Loka. With all of the blueprints in hand, you can get to crafting this Warframe. So there you have it, we have taken a look at Titania and what it is good for. If you enjoyed this video, then please help out the channel by clicking the like button. Please also consider clicking subscribe and the notification bell to be notified when the next video arrives. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again next time.